Hello, everyone, and welcome back. What we are discussing today is the Smart Brush tool. You have two under this tool. It's one thing we didn't discuss earlier, but I wanted to touch on so that we've covered it. You have the Smart Brush tool and the Detailed Smart Brush tool. Both are used for different things. The Smart Brush tool is generally used for bigger areas of the picture, vistas, skies, water, etc. And the Detailed Smart Brush is used for smaller areas of the picture. So for this picture here, we're just going to kind of enhance the whites and the contrasts of the background, etc. So we want to start by selecting from our drop-down menu, high contrast, which is basically increased contrast. And we'll come up here and we'll start painting or selecting the area we'd like to contrast. Now I'm just looking at the horizon line. I don't want the water or the sky involved, even though it's selecting it for me. So what I would do is come down to minus and bring that down to eliminate part of the selection that I don't want and keep this part of the selection that I do want. So I'm kind of clicking along the line that I wish to have, and it's understanding that that's where I'd like to put the line. So it'll do that automatically for you. It's a little trickier around here. And just make sure you subtract that area. Okay, I think I got most of the water out of it. And that there too. Okay, so I want to increase the contrast, and that's about all you do. You can see that it actually added a layer mask here. And if I wanted to change that selection now, or that brightness of that, I can do this and drag the sliders. So I can lower contrast or raise contrast. Just gives it a sharper horizon line, I can lower the brightness down. And if you want to see what it's doing, you just hit select. So that's too much, obviously, too cloudy. What I want to get to is just a little more detail. So I would do something like that. The other thing you can do with this tool, which is pretty useful, is you can add and increase the lightness of areas too. So as you can see right here, brighten your image. And we're going to take that down to here. And we're going to start to brighten our whites. Right? Any part we select will whiten. So I'm selecting all the foamy parts of the water just to intensify the white. Did the sky, it's not so bad that it did. Maybe I'll add the rest of it. And you get that general idea. And then again, another layer mask for this area. So when I deselect the area, I've got my white, and I can come up here and I can increase or decrease the brightness of that area too. So, and the contrast as well. So lots of little tricks to this one. Other things available in this are to turn image black and white in reverse. So if I clicked on that, you can see what happens. As you can see, I can color parts of the image, bring color back to parts of the image, but not all of it, which also obviously looks very good. And just maybe do the rocks in the foreground. Bring color back to parts and leave parts uncolored. And that would be the end result. So there's an option, but I'm going to turn that off for now. We can go in here and you can increase the intensity of the foliage, meaning if there was greenery in this area, we could do that. You can make dull skies blue. We can make lips red. We can intensify that. We can whiten teeth and whiten teeth more, but we'll get to that one in a second. So as you can see, we can darken our image as well. So again, I'm going to select darken image, come down here, and I'm just going to darken parts. And you can see now that that has now created its own layer mask again. And I probably don't want to do the contrast background that I chose, so just slowly click. And maybe I want to darken these rocks in here and these rocks over here. Maybe I want to darken the sky as well. And again, so as I apply this, oops, minus that, I don't want any of that. As I apply this, I can go back up and click on my sliders and adjust the darkness of the picture as well. Right here, again, I'm going to lighten or darken these areas. So you can dramatically affect the overall outcome of the picture by doing so. And you can see right there when I increase the contrast and make that a little darker, I get a much more striking visual effect on the sky. Another option to understand about the Smart Brush. Again, the Detail Smart Brush is just another way of doing the same thing. I would sort of come in here and say I would add a, go back on my background layer, unlock the pixels. And that's for smaller areas. As you can see, I'm not choosing or selecting like the larger brush did. The Detail brush actually lets me kind of just paint this in a much easier way. So I'm just painting in white in these areas here, being careful not to make it too opaque. And I can do that by lowering my opacity of the layer just so that it blends a little bit better in with the rest of it. Okay, I don't want to lose any realism or realistic looking stuff. I'm going to make my brush smaller here and just give the waves a little shot. And again, when I'm done all this, the next step is obviously get into your slider and check out what you did. Increase your contrast, play around with those sliders to get that right visual effect. And those are generally how to use the Smart Brush and the Detail Smart Brush. Another stage here, obviously no one likes yellow teeth. Another thing to be aware of is the Make Teeth White or Whiten Teeth option here. And as you can see, it's putting a layer mask over the teeth, where I'm just drawing in the whiteness. You can also select Whiten Teeth More, which I would do, and make that brush bigger. Be careful of your edges though, because you don't want to color the gums white. And if you do, you're gonna have to minus it. And you do that by clicking on minus down here with the detailed Smart Brush, okay? Because it does smaller areas and does things more dramatically. And you're gonna do this probably on a zoomed in level. So I would probably get right in there and be working with these teeth. And as I go, I can increase that by going over it again and again. Okay, the other thing to know is I can increase the opacity or decrease the opacity here. I can also come in here and I can choose, different shades, different colors, get that whiteness right up and lower that opacity down, right? Lots of things you can do. This is on soft light. I can play around with some of these options as well. And if I zoom back out on my background, the last option on here, one of the last options is to make lips red. I'd like you to do the same thing. Get in there and get those lips red for contrast, okay? Again, be careful of the color, be careful of the tone and realism. And, generally make sure that you cover those lips in all red. So in the end, this should be red lips and white teeth, and don't go over the line like I did. Okay, and there is your Smart Healing Brush, your Smart Brush and your Detail Smart Brush tool.